Hello, good morning, everyone. We are the next presenter, and we're about to discuss with the topic justice with the members, the Bulusan, the Apana, and De Los Reyes. And we have here the introduction, in which what is justice? So, justice is derived from the Latin word justitia, and which means joining or fitting of bound or tie. And this concept of justice has been analyzed and defined differently by philosophers, political thinkers, and this is based on ethics, rationality, law, religion, equity, and fairness. So it has been changing from time to time depending the conditions and circumstances prevailing in age, and it has to coordinate and draw a harmonious balance between rights and duties of the people living in the society. And we have here John Rawls. He claims that justice is the first virtue of social institutions, as truth is of systems of thought. And next here for the definition, we have here different philosophers who define what is justice. And for Charles Merriam, justice consists of a system of understanding and also a procedures through which each is accorded what is agreed upon as fair. So from the word justice, it is a system of understanding. So when we saw something that's not right, of course we have to understand the situation, we have to analyze the situation before we jump into a conclusions. So it goes through a process of procedures in which we need to investigate before we jump into conclusions. And next is we have here Barker, in which he defined justice as a reconciler and the synthesis of a political values, and also it is a union in a just and integrated whole. So meaning reconciler. So from the word reconciler, so meaning it is to restore friendly relations with the political values. And so a reconciler is to cause to coexist in harmony or to be compatible with one another. And next we hear Saint Simon, which from each according to his capacity and to each according to his need. So he defined justice as this one. So each according to his capacity. So since justice, so of course as if a civil being, as individual, we all have a different capacity according to our needs. So with the word justice, we have the right to defend ourselves from the justice. So since it is according to his needs, meaning means we all deserve the justice that we want. We all deserve the things that to defend ourselves, not just let other person let us down. It's because of that certain circumstances that justice is not being served. So we have here the meaning of justice. So it's an aggrieved party what is due to and punish an individual or a group of individuals or an agency whenever offense is committed. So it is difficult to give a precise meaning of the term justice and political thinkers and jurists had given different meanings and definitions. So the reason for this is that the contents and implications of justice differ from one country to country and from time to time. So meaning when we go to a different places, when we go to a different area, we all have certain rules and regulations that is implemented in that certain area. So was justice in the past, not just justice in the present today. So therefore, uh, it is difficult to define justice. And next is in the narrow sense, it means the meaning of justice. It is associated with legal system and legal process in a society. So in this sense, it is related to the settlement of disputes through judicial bodies, and it is a legal or philosophical theory which fairness is administered. So a man living in society is attached to another man in another way or other, and this relationship has a few rights and duties attached to it. When a man, while enjoying his rights, also fulfills his duties and behaves in an appropriate manner with others, then he is said to be doing justice. So justice is peace and genuine respect for people. Fairness, justness, fair play, fair-mindedness, equity, equitableness, impartiality, lack of bias, objectivity, neutrality, lack of prejudice, open-mindedness, non-partisanship. So these are all have the same meaning, so it means having fair and justice. And next, we have here the characteristics of justice. First, we have here the human welfare. So it is generally refers to allocation of resources to fit the well-being of humans. So meaning human welfare. So it has a high standards of well-being to be maintained. The concern for a healthy environment must be balanced against the requirements of the economic growth. Second is the ethical concepts. So from the word ethics, this refers to philosophical study of the concepts of moral right and wrong and moral good to bad, and any philosophical theory of what is morally right and wrong or morally good and bad, and to any system or code of moral rules, principles, or values. Third is changeability. So from the word change, so it is the quality of being changeable. So of course, justice is really is not that constant. When we say not constant, there are things that is that stagnant. So from time to time, as I've mentioned earlier, justice is changing from time to time, and if we go to other places. And the fourth is the fulfillment of reasonable interest. So we all have reasonable interest. So we all have the right to defend ourselves from any circumstances that we encountered. And the fifth is to provide everybody his reasonable share. And lastly, justice is related to values prevailing in this society. And this ends my part. Thank you for listening, and let's move on to the next reporter. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Shanine Marie de Bulusan, and I am going to discuss the basic postulates of justice. So, first is truth. So we all know that truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. In everyday language, truth is typically ascribed to things that aim to represent reality. And the second one is uniform values. A uniform values of both problem is obtained by introducing the notions of a truth values. The third one is equality before law, or also known as isonomy. The basic principle recognizes that all individuals should be treated in exactly the same manner by the law, while all persons should be subject to the same laws. And next is liberty. liberty is kind of freedom, whether it's freedom from tyranny, freedom from confinement, or simply the freedom of choice. And next is impartiality. Impartiality is the quality of not being biased or prejudiced, and being impartial means that you are not taking sides and you're open and you treat everyone fairly, and you're not biased towards any particular persons or argument, and you place importance on equality and you never discriminate. The next is respect of individual's ability and capability. So we should respect everyone's ability and capability, and we should focus directly on the quality of life and individuals are actually able to achieve. And next is protective discrimination is not injustice. The policy of granting special privileges to the downtrodden and the underprivileged sections of society, most commonly women. And next is provision of rights, or refers to sharing and distribution, and it includes the right to possess, receive, or have access to certain resources and services. And last is fulfillment of basic needs, requirement for quality of life and social well-being. If need stays unfulfilled, then a feeling of a lack or deficit arises, which has negative consequences for individuals and society. So now, let's proceed to kinds of justice and dimensions of justice. So legal dimensions of justice. So this is the narrow concept of justice and associated with the legal system and the legal procedure existing in the society. So the court of law interpret the law and apply the law after hearing the parties involved in a dispute. Here, justice is what is administered by the court of law, and the interpretation of the judge is considered as an embodiment of justice. So, justice in the legal sense requires the following conditions. So, letter A, just and reasonable non-discriminatory laws. So, example, you does not and shall not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, gender expression, age, national origin, disability, and marital status. And letter B is the administration of justice by free and independent courts. So without the rule of law and independent and impartial judges, there would be a provision in the functioning of the state. An independent judiciary is therefore essential for the upholding of the rule of law and ensuring an effective and accountable political structure. Then, letter C, inexpensive judicial process. So, for example, the judiciary process of the Philippines consists of the Supreme Court, which is established in the Constitution, and 3 levels of lower courts, which are established through the law by the Congress of the Philippines. And letter D, court procedure should be simplified and avoid delay in justice. It means that if legal redress or equitable relief to an injured is available, but it is not for those who are timely fashioned, and it is effective at the same time as having no remedy. And letter E, there should be a rule of law in the country. So it is applied equally and fairly to both of the government and citizens. This means that all people, regardless of their status, race, culture, religion, or any other attribute, should be ruled equally by just laws. So, nobody should be denied of political rights. To provide equal political rights is political justice. So, all peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and state without fear of discrimination or repression, and is tied closely to citizenship status. Following conditions are necessary to ensure political justice. So first is universal adult franchise. Gives the right to vote to all adult citizens, regardless of wealth, income, gender, social status, race, ethnicity, political stance, or any other restriction. And next is right to contest elections. It means a right of action conferred on every candidate to contest the certification of nomination. And next is right to criticize the government. The people always have a right to criticize the dispensation running the administration of the country, being the government. And next is right to form political parties. A citizen has a right to criticize or comment upon the measures undertaken by the government and its functionaries. And next is right to protest. Everyone has the right to associate with others and gather together for a common purpose. And next is right to petition. The right to petition allows citizens to focus government attention on unresolved ills. And next is respect of human rights. Respecting human rights means recognizing the value of each person, ensuring their dignity and safety. Next is protection of the interest of minorities. So minorities require special measures to ensure that they benefit from the same rights as the rest of the populations. And next is political authority should be based on the consent of the people, because when a political authority fails to secure consent or oversteps the boundaries of the natural law, it ceases to be legitimate. Next is democratic system. Is a form of government in which the people have the authority to deliberate and decide legislation. And then special provisions for the protection of the interest of backward classes and backward tribes. Political justice stands for a free and fair participation of people in the political sphere. Universal adult franchise in the expression of political justice as the basis for elections to all levels of the elected government. All liberal democratic countries are based the principle of one man, one vote, one value is faithfully adopted. Political institutions should be representative in character. And then equality of opportunity in getting elected and in holding public offices, freedom of expression and association, and rights to seek redressal of public grievance are the important pillars of political justice. And that's all for my part.
So good morning everyone. I am Jessamine de los Reyes and I was tasked to report the social dimensions of justice. So what is social justice? Social justice is a political and philosophical theory asserting that there are dimensions to the concept of justice beyond those embodied in the principles of civil or criminal law, economic supply and demand, or traditional moral frameworks. So where did the theory of social justice originate? The concept of social justice as a term came to the fore in the 19th century when the Industrial Revolution was underway. During this period, there was a big gap between the rich and the poor, and human rights were mostly not legally established. So, what is the goal of social justice? Social justice is about equality. According to this theory, everyone should have equal access to wealth, health, well being, privileges, and opportunity, regardless of their background. Well, there are four main principles of social justice. First is equality. Second, equity. Rights. And lastly, participation. So the following are conditions necessary to ensure social justice. First is equality before law, absence of special rights, prohibition of discrimination, to end caste system, just distribution of wealth, democratic government, just balance between freedom and social control, social security, provision of equal political rights, protection of interests of minorities, and lastly, abolition of social values. So let's move on to economic dimensions of justice. So what is economic justice? Economic justice means to provide equal opportunities to everybody to earn his livelihood. It also means to help such people who are not able to work and earn their livelihood. It also implies non-discrimination between man and man on the basis of economic viability. So the following are conditions necessary to ensure economic justice. First, right to work for everybody, fulfillment of basic needs, to reduce wide economic disparities, protection of the interests of workers, from each according to his ability and to each according to his needs, just distribution of wealth, end of economic exploitation, special protection of the interest of weaker section, limited right to property, question of state interference in economic needs, fixed economy is better, and lastly, equal wages for same job. So to sum it up, we can conclude that justice is concerned with human welfare and the protection of reasonable interest. A just society is that society where every individual gets legal, political, social, economic justice, and individual is the subject matter of these concepts. So thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you learned something about this video and have a good day. Thank you.